Hey lovelies, you're welcome back to Reviews and Recaps. Let's talk about Ready to Love. Now, what I'm going to be doing is talking about Ready to Love episode 2 and 3 and some of the key takeaways from the episode. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about specifically is Patricia, who ends up being the one eliminated at the end of episode 2. Now, from my observation of her interactions, especially her interaction with Jonathan, she did come across very closed off, and I remember thinking, I feel like she may go home, because I was just thinking about her interaction with Jonathan, and I thought, I don't think she is really ready in terms of like opening up, in terms of being ready for a platform like Ready to Love. Now, what I thought was interesting also was I didn't really see her sort of like connect, especially with anyone else from that episode. So I pretty much knew that at some point it was likely that she was going to get eliminated. Now, from that episode, I would say some of the ladies that really caught my attention, I would say Maya. And one of the reasons I felt like Maya caught my attention was because of how attentive she was. And she was talking to all of the guys. She was working the room. I feel like she understood the assignment of Ready to Love. I also love Vanessa. But I think Vanessa, when she's talking to some of these people, especially on a show like that, I feel like Vanessa may go home soon if she does not figure out a way to open herself up a little bit more to the men. I completely understand being a reserved person, but I feel like it's one thing to be reserved, but then if you're on a dating show where things are very fast paced, you need to sort of, I don't want to say get with the program, but you need to be a little bit more open, because that's the only way most people are going to be able to get to know you and then know whether or not you're the right fit for them. Now, I love who she is. I love how reserved she is. I love how smiley she is. She's a very beautiful woman. I just wish like some of the conversations that she has, she appears a little bit more confident. And also I would like to see her ask more questions and see how she also navigates through that, right? I'm not saying she shouldn't be reserved. I'm not telling her to not be who she is, but I'm saying that if you're going to be on a fast-paced dating show and you don't want to go home, you have to understand that you need to engage with a lot more people. You need to engage with people. Even if you don't think they're a right fit, you still have to engage. It's almost like a numbers game, to be completely honest. And I think that's probably something, if Vanessa wants to stay on the show, that she probably needs to look into. The other thing I wanted to say about this episode is a lot of the people on this episode were at least better looking than the first episode, I would say. So, I guess that's a plus. There's a lot more people to pick from. So I thought episode 3 was interesting for a number of reasons, right? I was observing like the interactions between Lamar and Mika, I think, or Micah. Please correct me in the comment section below as to which one it is, or is it Maika? I'm sorry, I'm still learning their names. We're just episode 3 and like I'm trying. It was interesting how she was completely honest about not wanting any more children. So as soon as Lamar wanted any children, she's like, okay, this ain't gonna work. And I love how they shook on it and everyone went their separate ways. Don't let me disturb you. Don't let me waste your time. You don't want no children. I want children. Let's just cut that out, right? So I think that's the way dating should be like, right? If I see something that I want that is very important to me, and you don't want the same things, I should know that, okay, this ain't gonna work for me, and head out. Instead of previous episodes that we've seen people that don't want children then later say, yeah, or now don't get me wrong, I know people can change their minds, but most times on this show we've seen people who obviously are so adamant about not wanting children, but just because they want to stay on the show, say, yeah, maybe one, yeah, you don't want kids. Like, stop deceiving people. Let people know exactly what it is, and stop wasting people's time. So I absolutely appreciated that. Now, don't think I'm giving Lamar the compliment, because I'm coming for him really shortly as well. I have a lot to say about Lamar, and we'll talk about it in this video. But before that, let's talk about Jonathan's interaction with April and Maika. So there was a lot of talks. They were asking him questions about his previous relationship with his ex. You could tell that he was getting defensive and did not really want to go into details about his previous relationship with his ex, right? And wants to go into detail about whether or not they're still sort of like engaging, how long it has been, and things like that. And so now, can I say, I feel like Jonathan should have been less defensive. At the end of the day, if you're coming on a show saying you're ready to love, then you have to be ready to discuss your love affairs, right? You have to be ready to discuss your past in relation to relationships. You have to be comfortable enough to discuss that. Now, I'm not saying tell them every single thing on the first day. It's on the TV show, I get it. But at the same time, you should not come across as defensive. If anything, you should be providing the information, even if you choose to hold certain things back. Instead, it almost seemed like he didn't want to be questioned, and he just didn't like that. That's the process of getting to know someone. I want to know about your past. I want to know about relationship you've been on. Now, if I use a personal example, the other day I was talking to some guy, right? And we're still trying to get to know each other to see whether or not we're even a good fit to go on a first date, right? This is something I like to do first before I go on a first date with anybody. So I was talking to this person now. I'm trying to find out more about his previous relationships. And he had dated this person for, I think, about 7 to 8 years, right? In the past, they've been broken up for a couple of months. And I said to him, in the past, have you gone back to your ex? And he's like, yeah, they've had an on and off relationship throughout the 8 years. And so I said, okay, so is this time any different? And what makes this time different? And he got really defensive. And he was like, at the end of the day, like, I've left her, we've broken up, now I'm ready for something new and stuff like that. And he doesn't know why it matters for me to know that. And I said to him, well, I need to know, because you said out of your own mouth that you've had an on and off again relationship with this woman for 8 years. So if you're saying you want to date me and you want to go on a date with me, then I need to know whether or not you have plans to go back, whether or not you're done, and what makes this time different. It's just common sense. I'm not going to intentionally put myself in any entanglement, knowing fully well that you have an on and off again relationship of 8 years and you may go back to her in like 5 seconds. So I need to ask questions. And for me, I was like, the fact that you're also being defensive about these questions is a problem. Now, was my approach a lot better than April and Maika? Absolutely. I felt like they could have been a little bit more softer in the way in which they are approaching the questions. It came across a bit more judgmental, a bit too direct, a bit too curt. And so sometimes that could allow or make people feel like they don't really feel comfortable to express that, right? So I will say that. But I also understand how April and Maika could leave there feeling like, baby mama drama. Because you're not being clear, and you're also saying there's a chance that your ex still likes you. But then you didn't give the woman any reassurance to say, I don't really like her. I have firm boundaries. I this, I that, I that. Like, I just don't understand why that is hard for some people to comprehend. Anyways, let's move on to Lamar and April. Lamar and April is just mad. And yeah, it was just a combative situation, in my opinion. I know we used the word combative last year at the Ready to Love, the previous Ready to Love, but it just came across like it was just tense, and it was what it was, right? So, but to give some context, the way I thought about it was Lamar was being unnecessarily defensive. Lamar is absolutely too much. From episode 2, I would have removed Lamar from the show. Okay, because he came across as team too much. It came across as, imagine, like, you're in episode 2, you're talking about, like, you're just meeting these women for the first time. You're talking about sex, you're talking about threesomes, you're talking about nude beaches, you're talking about mad ish like that. Guy, cut it out, right? And so for me, I would have had some issue as well with him, right? Like, I would have asked questions about previous relationships, and if you don't give me the answer to that, I would be like, what do you have to hide, right? Of course, now, I'm not saying that April's approach is the best. April is very curt. April has no tact in the way in which she comes across. Absolutely. But Lamar is a problem. Let's not forget that. Lamar is a problem. He is sassy. Did you see how he was in the men's lounge talking about April? He is a sassy little fill in the gaps, honey. Fill in the gaps. But yeah, he is very sassy. Not my cup of tea. So let's talk about the double date where they were playing bowling and the loser had to do a chicken dance, right? It was really funny and entertaining just watching them have fun and watching the women be competitive. That was very nice to watch. Now, in terms of the interaction, the one-on-one interactions, Jonathan and Kashia and Alexis and Jonathan, I feel like Alexis and Jonathan kicked it off, and they seem to have like a really good vibe. So I'm like, okay, I'll be interested to see how that goes. Like, I remember when Alexis walked in, I think Jonathan was saying something about her hair, and so I guess he's really into that. And so, like, it was nice to see them sort of like just vibe and have like a lighthearted conversation, right? But then over on the other side with Kashia and Alonso, it just seemed like they do not mesh very well. She's not really into Alonso's personality and his jokes. It just did not work. Like, it was giving me cause for, like, I was cringing the whole time, just thinking like, oh goodness, like, they are not a good match at all. Let's move on to the double date with William, Vanessa, Lamar, and Patrice now. I absolutely love interesting dates like this. There's just something lovely about doing something together. It was beautiful and it's very easy. Well, it looks easy. And it's probably like a fun date to do for someone who does not know how to conventionally paint. And so I think that might be fun to try. Like, I know, like, I personally feel like I can't paint, even though people are like, oh my God, you can paint. I'm like, girl, stop. But I feel like this one, I probably would be able to handle. So, if you're listening and, you're my next date, make sure you arrange something like this. I'm just saying. Anyway, let's actually get into the nitty gritty. Lamar was too forward for my liking. I did not like that for Patrice. I did not like that. Lamar was coming close to her, corner of her ears, trying to like get that it was too much for me. And he was making a lot of like sexual jokes and I just was not here for it. Lamar, like, you just sound like someone that is horny and needs to get laid. You do not sound like someone who wants anything serious, who wants to get to know these women. You're just here, well, it gives the impression you're just here for the sexual-ish of it all, in my opinion, okay? Also, I didn't like the way that he swooped in to try and pull Vanessa, whilst Vanessa was actually trying to talk to William. I thought that was very weird, the way he swooped in. There was no tact whatsoever. But I loved how Vanessa got up. She hugged William and then she was like, okay, let's go. I was like, yes, yes, classy woman. Yes, beautiful woman. You better do your ish, you know? So I absolutely love that. But when Lamar pulled her to Vanessa to the outside, he was telling her, oh, she needs to shout and all of that. I'm like, dude, what is your problem? Leave this woman alone. You know, you and the rest of the world know that you and Vanessa are not a good fit. She needs a classy man. You are not. She needs a man that does not talk about sex all day. You are not. You only want to talk about sex and sexual activity. She ain't on that. She is a wholesome woman who wants a wholesome man. So that ain't you. You know, so keep it pushing. You don't have to interrupt a conversation that was going well to pull her to the side to have an annoying conversation. Okay? Now, it seems like Patrice is the highlight of this episode, honey, because all the men were filling her. It's like, Patrice, Patrice, Patrice. Now, Laurent went on a date with Patrice. It seemed like they hit it off initially, but Patrice was not feeling how Laurent was talking about the food and the catfish, and he kept like drooling over it. I think she was like, yeah, nah, you're not a classy man, you're not really like, you're not even paying attention to me. She did not like that. So I'll be interested to see how things go with their so-called interaction. Okay, I can't even say connection, I would say interaction. Now, on the other hand, Jonathan and April go out for a date, and yeah, it was dry as heck. I just did not see nothing ever happening between any of them. Like, Jonathan, yeah. And the way Miss April talks, I don't think it's gonna work for Jonathan, okay? I just don't think so. Now, let's talk about the men's lounge. I feel like Lamar was entirely too sassy, constantly talking about the girlies. I actually liked the fact that I believe it was Chaz. He did not laugh whilst the other guys were laughing about it. He was not finding it funny, even though he does not have any connection with April. I appreciated the fact that the man was like, nah, I'm not going to indulge in the shenanigans. Patrice has the magic sauce, honey, because everyone was like, Patrice, 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 honey. So, of course, Tommy was like, who are they not feeling? And so a lot of the men were talking about Koshia and April, right? Which is completely no surprise to any of us, okay? Koshia is a beautiful woman, banging body, but that energy, that attitude, my. She just seems very, very closed off, and I don't think that is going to work for her on the show. But let's talk about the elimination dates, okay? So Lemar has the date with April, Alonso has the date with Koshia, right? And April ends up getting eliminated. Are we surprised? No. Now, moving over to the interaction between Koshia and Alonso, I thought that was weird. So apparently they were playing a game and he was listing different things for her to choose from. And apparently the question was choke or smack or something like that. And Koshia was not feeling that. What was interesting was that Alonso kept trying to gaslight her by saying that that is not sexual. Like, guy, what does choking mean? Like, do you just go around saying choke or smack? Like, does that make sense? It has sexual connotations. So stop acting like she has no right to take it the way she took it, right? And he was playing in her face even after she checked him. Now, she checked him with some vim, I will say. I could hear a crack in his voice. It was like his voice was cracking because he was like checked by this woman, okay? It was almost like his little boy voice came out. Now, do I think that she had too much energy for him? Absolutely. I felt like it was just too much. It was just too much. There's a way to express yourself without that much venom. So I feel like, yeah, it's about to be a madness with Koshia on this season, because I don't understand how you have that much vim for what that man has said. Now, don't get me wrong, you can be very vocal and assertive without that energy coming across. Because the way the energy comes across is it comes across as unhinged and unhealed. right? Now, did I appreciate the way she picked up and left when he was trying to play in her face? Absolutely. You're not going to play in my face, sir. You're not. Okay. So I absolutely appreciated that. But if you also see the preview of the next episode, it looks like she's going off. And so I personally feel like, Mama, you're coming across as unhinged and unhealed. And that is not going to help your chances on this show, in my opinion, unless they decide to keep you for the drama. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Let's continue the conversation. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you share. And I will see you guys later. Bye.